This week on Africa Weekly. After the news, we'll go to Sierra Leone, where schools have reopened their doors 9 months after being forced to close by the Ebola outbreak. And we'll head to a village in northern Ivory Coast, where locals are reaping the rewards of a nearby gold mine. And finally, we'll look at Uganda's budding film industry, dubbed Wakaliwood. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Tuesday marked the first anniversary of Boko Haram's abduction of 276 Nigerian schoolgirls. Protest marches and candlelit vigils demanding the release of those still missing were held throughout Nigeria and abroad. And staying in Nigeria, the party of outgoing President Goodluck Jonathan, the PDP, on Monday won back control of the Southern Rivers state in state elections. But it was President-elect Muhammadu Buhari's party that won in a majority of the country's 36 states. Thousands of people marched through the South African port city of Durban to protest against anti-immigrant violence that left at least 6 people dead and has spread to parts of downtown Johannesburg. Voting in Sudan's general election that President Omar al-Bashir is widely expected to win was extended by a day after reports of a poor turnout. Polls have now closed and results are expected at the end of April. Hundreds of refugees from war-torn Yemen have been arriving in Djibouti as they flee the conflict that's pitting the Shiite rebels known as Houthis against the Saudi-led coalition. And in Mogadishu, Somalia's Al-Shabaab insurgents killed at least 15 people on Tuesday when they blasted into the higher education ministry with a car bomb before storming the building. The attack comes just 2 weeks after Al-Shabaab's massacre of 148 students at Kenya's Garissa University. Adored by reggae fans everywhere, Ivorian superstar Alpha Blondy has now become a storyteller on his own radio station, using his well-known voice to draw in listeners once again. They've been off school for 9 months because of the Ebola outbreak, but many children in Sierra Leone have suffered more than a lost education.
With schools closed since July last year, the Ebola outbreak has hit children in Sierra Leone hard. But more than a lost education, many have lost siblings and parents. An estimated 8,500 children have lost at least one parent, according to government figures.
There's a large number of children whose parents got infected by Ebola. Many of them lost their parents as a result of Ebola, and these are the Ebola orphans. Ebola orphans are normally children who lose their parents are taken up by the extended family, but as you can understand, many community members are afraid for Ebola and therefore also hesitant to take care of those members of those children.
International as well as local agencies are doing what they can to meet the needs of those orphaned by the outbreak. This interim care centre is run by a German NGO and looks after 34 children.
There are some children who are not well. They're very poorly. I care for a child called Mamie. She just cries a lot, and when you give her food, she vomits. Another one called Victor, he has a constant temperature, and when fed, he coughs until he chokes.
When one of Fatima's neighbours first contracted the virus, no one believed it was Ebola. Of her entire family, only she and her older brother survived. When she arrived at the centre, she was very weak and still breathing.
We have some children who come from the street, we have some Ebola survivors, and when they come together, there's no problem. No one talks about Ebola, no one talks about the street. They come together, they play, and then a child is able to be a child.
But for those robbed of a loved one and still stigmatised by Ebola, childhood has been lost forever.
Welcome to Ivory Coast's gold country. Here in the northern town of Tongon, life has improved significantly for local people since South African mining company Randgold began work in 2010. The company's invested $5 million in local communities, and even the Prime Minister is working in tandem with the company to meet the demands of the local chief.
He
wanted us to build a water tower. I turned to the president of Randgold, who said, "No problem, It will be done.
Le Rangol qui a dit pas de problème, c'est ça fait.
Since the mine's been active, residents have gained access to electricity, drinking water, schools and health centres. Furthermore, of Rangold's 1,600 employees at the mine, 80% of them are recruited from surrounding villages. But in 6 years, the mine will close, and villagers who had abandoned agriculture for the mining business are concerned about their future.
Former les jeunes dans plusieurs.
Train up the young people. This needs to be done in several stages, with livestock, other animals like fish. Rangold must take the initiative to train young people in case the company disappears, so we won't be able to depend on it for our survival.
Au cas où Rangol n'est plus là, pour qu'on puisse survivre de plus.
Such fears are allayed by the company's CEO, who also has his eyes on the future. He's keen to use the existing infrastructure for developing new projects.
And our big focus is agribusiness. You've seen, we've brought in the power in a public-private partnership. We've brought in the water. What more do you need?
The shelf life of Tongon's gold mine might be short, but Rangold has discovered other gold deposits nearby. This offers some comfort to local people, for the time being at least.
A masked man on motorbike falls to the ground, his bike taken by a dreadlocked foe just moments later. A violent scene from crime-prone Kampala? No. This drama playing out is fiction, from the action-packed film Operation Kakangoliro, due for release later this year by Ramon Film Productions. The set is a scrapyard in Wakaliwood, a slum in Uganda's capital now baptized Wakaliwood. Writer, director, and producer Isaac Nabwana grew up here, listening to descriptions of the movies watched by his older brothers.
My older brothers used to go to cinema halls. For me, I didn't go there. So when they came back, they used to tell me stories about the movies they have watched. Like I remember the likes of Bud Spencer was one of the actors of that time. Wang Yu, Bruce Lee.
Since then, Nabwana has built Ramon Film Productions, Uganda's first action film company, which over the past 9 years has produced around 46 feature-length films. But their success hasn't changed their shoestring budget. Their biggest hit, Who Killed Captain Alex, was shot in 1 month in 2010 for about $200. Props are improvised or created. Rocket launchers made from frying pans and plastic tubes, and condoms full of red food coloring to create gloriously graphic death scenes.
Sometimes Raymond Film Production is missing something, like a gun or weapon. I can modify some grenades. That is toy, but it's not real. When you're in a movie, it's real.
After watching some of Isaac's films in 2011, Alan Hoffman was so inspired he left his film work and came to Uganda. He's since taken up the role as Wakaliwood's bridge to the West, helping promote an internet crowdfunding campaign to raise money for equipment and, hopefully, a proper studio. The films are peddled door to door by the crew for around $1 and watched for free on the internet.
They have the standard problems of anyone else, meaning money, getting people time, things like that. But electricity is a struggle. If we're lucky, we have it 4 days a week. The computers, we build the computers out of scrap parts. Typically, they last maybe 3 or 4 months before the dust and the heat gets to them. All the gear, they build themselves from scrap metal.
Many in Uganda, looking to Nigeria's booming Nollywood or even Hollywood itself, have high hopes for their own film industry. But Isaac's dream is simpler: to bring his country's stories to the world, one street fight at a time.
Wrestlers from the Nuba tribe of Sudan have started training for the 2020 Olympics under the critical gaze of their Japanese coach. The sport has been a part of the Nuba culture for millennia, and though the rules they follow may vary slightly from the Olympic version, these young athletes are getting ready to fight for some medals to take home. Next week we'll discover how in Ghana generating electricity has become child's play. And we'll savour the culinary delights of Congolese food as we trace the footsteps of Kinshasa's innovative gourmet chef.